name is Sindhu Susan and I'm a software developer. So today I'm going to discuss about my entire interview process. I'm going to talk about that how I have applied for this job, and then what are the questions, how many stages I have gone through. So let's get started. So this job was based in Chicago, and it was a DevOps role with the cloud, AWS cloud. So it was somewhat like mid-level role, and they wanted around 7 to 8 years of experience. So firstly, I applied through LinkedIn. After a week or so, I got a call from the HR, and the call ended for about 30 minutes. She asked me about my experiences, that what exactly my experience was and where I have worked, what are the tools which I have used, whether that was written in her JD or not, whether I have gone through the JD. She wanted to share the JD again. I asked her to share the JD so that I can go through, and in the call itself I said yes, I have gone through the JD and I'm comfortable with the JD. And then she asked me about my salary expectations. As you know that it was already written in the job post, so I knew about that earlier only. So it was about 120k to 135k, so it was somewhat in between. And then we started around she wanted to ask me about my experience in the Terraform and AWS Cloud, so I had to discuss that with her. She was jotting down all the information in her notepad or wherever, and she wanted to discuss my expectations and everything with the hiring manager. So the call ended, as I said, around 25 minutes to 30 minutes. It was an audio call, and she said that okay, I'm okay with everything, and I'm going to discuss with the hiring manager whatever your expectations are, and then from there on we can move forward. Then she jotted down all the information in the notepad, and she said that whether the hiring manager will be telling me that whether he is comfortable with all the expectations or not. And I waited for around 3 days, and after 3 days I got an email saying that they want to interview me for the next round. And then my interview was scheduled with the hiring manager. It was on the Zoom. So it was after 1 week, like I took a time of 1 week because I wanted a time of 1 week because of my other priorities. His expectations were like quite high. He was revolving around Terraform and AWS Cloud, and he has few questions around Terraform. So he wanted to ask me that whether I have worked in Terraform or not. So obviously I had worked in Terraform, and he wanted to see that whether in which project I have used in my Terraform, whether it was in the recent project or in the past projects. So I have to state that yes, it was in the recent project. And also about the cloud, whether I'll be able to use the cloud or not. First they had they had picked my resume because I am a AWS certified solution architect, so their expectations were based on that. So firstly he asked me about the questions around Terraform, and he asked me about the architecture of Terraform, how Terraform work and what exactly Terraform is, and then I had to obviously answer that. And then the next question which he asked me about the state files. He asked me that where can we, as we know that state file is one of the most important aspect in the Terraform. We should know that where to keep our state files, and then whether we have to keep it remotely, and if we are keeping it in the AWS cloud, so how we will manage the budget and all. So he was revolving around that also, and he was also revolving around like state file security and all, like whether it will be secure or not, and whoever if other person is coming, whether he'll be able to take the credentials or pull the data of that state file. And then the third question which he asked me about the all the stages which are involved, or you can say the architecture. He wanted me to explain the architecture more deeply, so that he'll be able to understand that whether I have the better knowledge, or I have understood the entire, or I can work in Terraform or not. Then fourth question, he asked me about the workspace, Terraform workspace, that what are the workspaces, how workspaces work, and how you can switch between workspaces. He also asked me about input variables and the variables. So I have worked in JavaScript, I worked in TypeScript as well, so I know how to handle variables. So I have to mention all the variable files and everything to him as well. Then also at the end, the last question of him, the last question in Terraform, he asked me about the Terraform drift. He wanted to understand what is my understanding of Terraform drift, and what are its common causes. Came on AWS, so he wanted me to he asked me scenario based questions of the AWS also. And then in the AWS cloud, he wanted to see that whether I'll be able to migrate the application or not. So their main purpose was the migration one, so they wanted to ask me about different migration processes involved. So first he asked me about the fault tolerance, and then he asked about again what are the services which I have used in the AWS, whether I'll be able to handle the cost management, budgeting and all and not. So he wanted to see that he asked me, like, if your company has multiple AWS accounts and each team needs to create an S3 bucket with the same security policies, so how can you avoid repeating the Terraform code? So it was a bit of a mixture of AWS and Terraform. So it was a nice question. I really like the question, and I have to explain it in the scenario based only, like from my prior experience, that what exactly I have done in my previous project. So I explained it accordingly. And then also he was he was focusing on the fault tolerance, because he wanted to see that whether I have the knowledge of AZs and regions or not, whether I'll be able to handle the scaling, like vertical or horizontal scaling. So his questions were around that also, like when will I use the vertical scaling and when will I use the horizontal scaling. So I had to, like, obviously I had to, what happens that we have to make a story, like before all this we have to have something in our mind, and prepare, I'm saying this, prepare 5-6 stories, so that you can revolve around those stories if you have scenario based questions. And you must answer in the star method, like that is a must, because if you have to put your thought, then obviously you have to have stories and star method and everything in your head, because it's a very long interview, like 1 hour is not less. Sometimes what happens, if they want to like deep dive, so they exceed the time as well, more than 1 hour they do. He said it on call that I'm okay with the interview, and we are moving to the next round, and the next round will be much more deep dive. So you have to deep dive. It will be a technical round, and I have to schedule the interview accordingly. So the HR will send the email, and you will get to the next level. And this was the final round. So if you want to know the questions which were asked in the final round, which were also very important questions, so please do comment. I will make a different video for that. Thank you.